I still remember the exact second my life split into two identities, because one second I was just a boyfriend holding shopping bags outside a bridal boutique, bored, distracted, pretending not to care, and the next second I caught my reflection in the glass door with a red dupatta draped over the mannequin behind me, and for one impossible heartbeat it looked like that bride was me. Not beside me. Not behind me. Me. And the most terrifying part was not that I imagined it. The most terrifying part was how right it felt. I wish I could tell you I laughed it off and walked away like nothing happened, but that would be a lie. Something in me woke up that day, something soft and hidden and starving, and once it opened its eyes, it refused to go back to sleep. At first I did what most people do when a truth feels too dangerous. I acted normal. I smiled when my girlfriend came out of the store. I complimented the embroidery she liked. I carried her heels in one hand and her coffee in the other, and played the role I had always played so well. But all night, I wasn't thinking about her bridal pics. I was thinking about the weight of that imagined dupatta on my head. I was thinking about why my chest tightened when I saw bridal bangles. I was thinking about why the word bride didn't make me curious from a distance. It made me ache from the inside. For days I fought it like it was a bad habit. I told myself it was only fascination. I told myself it was aesthetic admiration. I told myself every safe lie a scared person tells himself when he is standing at the door of his own truth, but doesn't yet have the courage to turn the handle. But the mind can lie, and the body still knows. Every time I passed a mirror, I started imagining softer shoulders, calmer hands, a slower walk, a different smile. Every time I saw bridal content online, I watched longer than I should have. Not because I wanted to see a woman become a bride, but because I wanted to understand how that transformation happened. Where it began. What the face looked like before the lashes, before the lipstick, before the jewelry, before the final version emerged like a secret finally given permission to breathe. That was the first mistake I made. I thought this was going to be about clothes. I thought maybe all I wanted was the fabric, the sparkle, the illusion. I had no idea that crossdressing, especially bridal crossdressing, doesn't begin in the wardrobe. It begins in the imagination. It begins when your mind sees a version of you that the rest of the world has never met and then starts asking one dangerous question over and over again. What if I let that version exist, even once? A week later, my girlfriend asked me to help organize some wedding references on her phone. She sat beside me, totally casual, trusting, unaware that I was trying not to stare too long at the makeup saves, the lehenga inspirations, the dupatta drapes, the poses, the side profiles, the hand placements, the way every tiny element changed the whole mood. That was when I learned the second thing most outsiders never understand. Femininity is not built from one big change. It is built from 50 tiny decisions. How the chin tilts. How the wrists relax. How the shoulders drop. How the eyes hold emotion 1 second longer. How fabric doesn't just sit on the body, it teaches the body how to move. That night, after she slept, I did something I had sworn I would never do. I opened a private browser and searched bridal transformation tutorials. Not as a joke. Not out of random curiosity. I watched like a student. Foundation matching. Beard shadow correction. Brow shaping. Contour placement. Lip lining. Lash balance. Wig framing. Blouse fitting tricks. Waist definition. Dupatta pinning. I wasn't just watching beauty content. I was collecting pieces of a person I had never allowed myself to become. And the more I learned, the more I realized why some crossdressers never stop once they begin. Because when you finally find language for a feeling you thought was nameless, it doesn't just excite you. It saves you. Still, learning secretly and doing secretly are two different levels of fear. My third turning point came from pure accident. My girlfriend left behind a small makeup pouch at my place. Just a basic pouch. Concealer, compact, one nude lipstick, kajal, a small brush, and a setting powder puff. Nothing dramatic. But to me it felt like forbidden treasure. I stared at it for 10 full minutes before touching it. My hands were actually shaking. Not because makeup was complicated, but because I knew if I touched it, this would become real. Curiosity would become action. Fantasy would become evidence. I locked my door, turned on the bathroom light, and stood in front of the mirror with that pouch like I was about to commit a crime against the version of me everyone knew. The first attempt was terrible. Truly terrible. My concealer was patchy, the kajal was uneven, the lipstick bled outside my lip line, and I looked less like a secret bride and more like a nervous thief who had lost a fight with a cosmetics counter. But I could not stop staring. Because buried beneath the bad technique, I saw a possibility. I saw softness trying to emerge through clumsy hands. I saw that this was not impossible. It was just unpracticed. That single ugly attempt changed everything. Once I had seen even a rough version of her, I couldn't go back to pretending she didn't exist. So I got smarter. I stopped rushing. I started studying like it mattered. And if someone watching this is genuinely trying to learn, let me tell you what changed my entire result. Don't start with glam, start with structure. Beard coverage matters more than bold lipstick. Skin prep matters more than expensive products. Brows frame the face before contour ever does. And posture can feminize faster than makeup if you do it right. The first time I stopped lifting my chest like I was trying to look broad and instead softened my ribcage, relaxed my jaw, and let my neck lengthen, I almost didn't recognize myself. Femininity is not about exaggerating. It's about removing resistance. Soon I wasn't just watching tutorials. I was building a secret system. I made a second email. I created a hidden folder. I learned which products could be bought without attracting attention. I memorized delivery times. I paid in cash when I could. I bought my first pair of bangles from a market stall where no one looked at anyone twice. Then I bought a padded blouse online and had it delivered to a pickup point across town. Then a simple wig. Then shapewear. Then the thing I told myself I would save for last, because I knew it would make the fantasy too intense to control, a bridal dupatta. When that package arrived, I didn't open it immediately. I just stared at it on my bed. A small, ordinary parcel holding an extraordinary threat. Because I knew this wasn't just an accessory. This was the symbol. This was the crown. The veil. The final permission. I opened it after midnight. The fabric was lighter than I expected. Softer too. It slipped through my hands like water, holding memory. I draped it badly the first time, then better the second. Then finally I stood in front of the mirror and let it fall over my head. And I swear to you, the room changed. Not literally. The walls stayed the same. The clock still ticked. The streetlight still pushed through the curtains. But my internal world changed shape. I wasn't looking at a man playing dress-up. I was looking at someone fragile, beautiful, frightened, and deeply familiar. Someone I had been missing long before I knew her name. That was the night I gave her one. I won't tell you the exact name, because some names are sacred, but I will tell you this. The moment I named my bridal identity, she became more than a fantasy. She became a self I could enter. From then on, my transformations became rituals. I learned that a bridal look is not created in one chaotic rush. It is built in emotional layers. First the shave, close and careful. Then skin prep, because dry texture ruins the illusion before you even begin. Then color correction, especially if beard shadow is your main challenge. Then foundation, pressed not dragged. Then setting. Then brows, which changed my face more than contour ever did. Then eyes, where I learned a soft, elongated shape gave me elegance without making me look overdone. Then lashes. Then lips. And only after the face felt believable did I move to hair, blouse, jewelry, drape, and final posture. If you're learning, don't chase perfection in one night. Chase consistency. A believable bride is built from patience. Everything was going deeper, but my fourth turning point came when I nearly got caught. One evening my girlfriend called and said she was nearby and wanted to stop over unexpectedly. I was mid-transformation. Wig on. Base done. One earring in. Dupatta pinned on one side. I froze so hard I could hear my own pulse. She said she'd be there in 5 minutes. 5. In that moment, I understood the brutal reality of secret femininity. It is not only thrilling, it is exhausting. Because secrecy makes every soft moment live beside panic. I ripped everything off in a hurry and made every mistake possible. Makeup wipes everywhere. Bangles under the pillow. Wig half stuffed into a drawer. Lipstick stain on the sink. I changed my shirt, splashed water on my face, opened windows, sprayed deodorant like a criminal cleaning a crime scene, and by the time she knocked, I looked normal enough from a distance. Normal enough, except for one thing I forgot. Kajal residue in my lower lash line. She looked at me for a second too long and asked if I was tired. I said yes. She said I looked different. I laughed. She didn't push. But after she left, I sat on the floor shaking, because I realized I had crossed a line. This wasn't a random experiment anymore. This was a life happening in parallel with my life. That close call should have stopped me. Instead, it made me disciplined. I created a real storage system. I learned removal routines. I bought micellar water. I stopped smearing and started dissolving. I learned that if you wear heavy bridal eye makeup, cleanup must be slow or your skin will betray you the next day. I learned to keep nails trimmed if I was wearing press-ons temporarily. I learned to photograph under warm and cool lighting because some looks lie in one light and fail in another. I learned to sit in the completed look for at least 10 minutes before judging it, because the first emotional rush can trick you into thinking a transformation is stronger than it actually is. Then came the fifth turning point, and this one changed not just how I looked, but how I moved. I had been focusing so much on face and clothing that I ignored embodiment. On camera and in mirrors, I still had boyfriend energy in my stance even when the makeup worked. So I started studying bridal poise. Not caricature, not performance. Presence. I watched how brides lower tension from the shoulders, how they gather fabric before sitting, how they place feet with intention, how their hands don't flap nervously but rest with purpose, how even a small glance downward can create softness when it comes from calm instead of shame. And one night, I practiced walking in my room for nearly an hour with a dupatta and imitation jewelry on, not because I wanted to be dramatic, but because I finally understood the real secret. If your body doesn't believe the transformation, your audience won't either. That lesson unlocked something powerful. For the first time, I stopped looking like a man hidden inside bridal styling and started looking like a bride being revealed through it. That should have been enough. It wasn't. Because once the mirror starts giving you moments of truth, you begin wanting witnesses. Not public witnesses. Not yet. But some kind of confirmation that what you are seeing is real. So I took photos. At first, only crop ones. Lips. Hands with bangles. Dupatta edge over the forehead. Side profile in low light. I told myself I was documenting progress. And I was. But secretly, I was also building proof that she existed outside the mirror. The sixth turning point came when I compared my first bridal attempt to my latest one and almost cried. Not because the makeup was better, though it was. Not because the drape was neater, though it was. But because the fear in my eyes had changed. In the first pictures, I looked like I was asking permission to exist. In the newer ones, I looked like I was starting to grant it to myself. That hit me harder than any lipstick ever could. A lot of crossdressers think the makeup is the transformation. Sometimes it is not. Sometimes the real transformation is the moment your face stops apologizing. Around that time, my girlfriend began talking more seriously about our future. Marriage came up casually at first, then more often, then with that dangerous sweetness that assumes a shared direction. I cared about her. That's what made everything harder. Because my secret bridal identity wasn't just a hidden hobby anymore. It was now sitting in the same room as questions about masculinity, partnership, truth, and the kind of life I was capable of living without breaking in half. I tried to bury myself in being the perfect boyfriend. More dates, more attention, more reliability. But the irony was cruel. The harder I tried to strengthen one identity, the louder the hidden one became. Every bridal reel, every makeup bag left on the table, every wedding conversation, every jewelry display. It all felt like the universe was pressing on a bruise I kept pretending wasn't there. Then came the seventh turning point, and it arrived disguised as disaster. One night, I decided to do my most complete transformation yet. Full face, better wig styling, a more detailed blouse fit, necklace, earrings, bangles, soft perfume, properly pinned dupatta, even a tiny bindi chosen with care. I set up my camera not to post, not to send, just to see myself move. I pressed record and walked into frame. Slowly, calmly, and for the first time I did not see a costume. I saw continuity. The face, the posture, the drape, the emotion, the restraint, it all aligned. I watched the clip back with my heart pounding. And then I made the mistake that changed everything. I forgot to lock that video away properly. The next morning I panicked because I couldn't find it in the hidden folder. My blood went cold. I searched everything. Trash. Gallery. Cloud sync. Recently deleted. I thought it was over. I thought one stupid mistake had detonated my entire life. Hours later I found it unsynced in a local album, but the fear of losing control stayed with me. And that fear taught me one more lesson worth giving to anyone on this journey. If your feminine side lives in secret, protect her technically, not just emotionally. Hidden folders are not enough. Understand backups. Understand sync. Understand notifications. Secrecy is a system, not a wish. After that scare, I made one unexpected decision. I stopped treating my bridal identity like a reckless impulse and started treating her like something deserving care. Better storage, better planning, better cleanup, better timing, better privacy. And strangely, that made me softer with myself. Because discipline is sometimes a form of love. The 8th turning point came when I tried voice work. Now, let me be honest. Voice can become a trap if you force it into a cartoon. I learned quickly that chasing an unnaturally high pitch only made me sound strained and fake. What changed everything was not pitch first, but rhythm. Softer landings on words. Less weight thrown into each sentence. Fewer abrupt endings. More breath. More melody. More intention. I recorded myself speaking bridal lines I invented in the mirror, and though I wasn't perfect, I discovered something important. The most convincing feminine voice is not always the highest one. It is the one that sounds emotionally congruent with the face, the body, and the moment. That gave me confidence I had never expected. Suddenly, my transformations were not only visual, they were immersive. And then, because life knows exactly when to test growth, my girlfriend asked if I wanted to accompany her to a wedding exhibition. I almost said no. I should have said no. But I said yes. Walking through that exhibition felt like walking through my own private obsession in public. Bridal makeup artists, jewelry counters, veil styling, lehenga racks, fragrance booths, mirror lights everywhere. My senses were overloaded. My girlfriend was excited, innocent, talking about fabrics and silhouettes, and I was trying not to look like someone internally collapsing. At one stall, a bridal consultant jokingly held up a dupatta near me to show my girlfriend the embroidery under a different light, and for a fraction of a second it brushed my hairline. That touch burned into me like a secret blessing. I smiled to hide the shock. But inside, my bridal identity was no longer whispering. She was asking how long I thought I could keep borrowing her life in private while publicly pretending she did not exist. That exhibition changed the emotional stakes. Until then, I was living 2 identities in rotation. After that, I began to feel what it meant to live divided. The 9th turning point was not glamorous at all. It was ugly and quiet. I sat alone one night, half dressed in boyfriend clothes, half transformed from the waist up because I had stopped mid-routine, and I looked like both lives had collided and neither one knew how to survive. I stared at myself in the mirror and felt grief. Not because I hated either side of me, but because both sides wanted space and only one was legally, socially, romantically invited into the room. That was the night I finally admitted something I had been avoiding. I was not just dressing. I was expressing. And expression denied for too long always becomes pain. But pain can clarify. Instead of spiraling, I decided I needed to understand my own attachment to bridal identity, specifically. Why bridal? Why not casual femininity only? Why not simpler looks? And the answer came slowly. Bridal transformation gave me the highest level of permission. It wasn't just feminine. It was ceremonial, complete, intentional, revered. A bride is not half-seen. A bride is prepared, adorned, centered, witnessed. Somewhere deep inside, I didn't only want to look feminine. I wanted to feel fully chosen by that femininity. Bridal styling gave me a moment where softness wasn't small. It was the whole event. Once I understood that, my shame loosened. The 10th turning point came from progress I could finally measure. I did a full transformation again, but this time I built it slowly across weeks of refinement. Better beard correction. Better undertone match. More natural lash placement. More precise lip shaping. Less contour, more blend. Softer blush placement. Cleaner wig line. Better blouse support. A padded drape that didn't flatten my face but framed it. The final result stunned me, not because it looked real in some simplistic way, but because it looked emotionally coherent. I looked like someone with a story. Someone waiting behind tradition and silk and silence. I took photos, and for the first time, I didn't crop out the whole face. I looked straight into the camera. And then I made another dangerous move. I created an anonymous account. No name connected to me. No personal details. Just one photo posted into the vast sea of strangers. My hands were ice cold when I hit upload. I was sure someone would mock me, clock me, expose me, destroy the illusion in one sentence. But the response was not what I expected. It wasn't massive and it wasn't magical, but it was enough. Few comments. A few compliments. One person even noticed the Depata framing and said it made the look elegant. I stared at that comment for minutes. Not because praise is everything, but because a stranger had seen the exact detail I had worked to learn. They hadn't seen a joke. They had seen craft. That validation was intoxicating and dangerous in equal measure. Now I wanted more. Better angles. Better lighting. More complete looks. I understood how people get pulled deeper. Not because they are shallow, but because recognition after secrecy feels like oxygen after suffocation. Still, the 11th turning point didn't come from the internet. It came from the mirror, and it was more powerful than any comment. I was fully transformed one night. Everything in place, when I stopped posing and simply stood there. No performance. No photos. No recording. Just breathing. And I realized I was not aroused. I was not even especially excited. I was calm. Deeply calm. The kind of calm that arrives when something inside you has stopped fighting for a minute. That moment taught me more than all the tutorials combined. Sometimes the truest sign that a feminine identity matters to you is not intensity. It is relief. Relief is a hard thing to ignore once you've tasted it. From there, I began treating my sessions less like escapes and more like honest appointments with myself. I started journaling after transformations. What worked? What failed? What emotions showed up? What triggered fear? What created euphoria? If you are serious about learning from this journey, do not only study your eyeliner. Study your emotional pattern. Ask yourself whether you feel playful, peaceful, ashamed, powerful, fragmented, grounded. Technique improves the look. Self-observation explains the need. Eventually, I reached the 12th turning point, the one that changed the meaning of the title in my own life. It happened on an ordinary night. No big event. No dramatic music. My girlfriend had gone home. My room was quiet. I transformed fully, more beautifully than I ever had before, and sat in front of the mirror with bridal jewelry catching the low light. I expected the usual rush. Instead, I felt a question rise inside me, clear and unavoidable. Was I living as a boyfriend who sometimes escaped into a secret bride, or had I actually become someone whose bridal identity was teaching him the truth about his inner self? That question broke me open, because boyfriend had always been my role, but secret bridal identity had become my revelation. And in that silence, I understood something I wish more people knew. Crossdressing is not always about becoming someone else. Sometimes it is how you stop abandoning the parts of yourself that never got to live. I don't have a perfect ending for you. I didn't suddenly solve every relationship question. I didn't wake up fearless. I didn't become magically understood by the world. Real life is more complicated than any transformation reel. But I did stop insulting my own truth by calling it just a phase. I stopped acting like the version of me in the mirror was fake simply because she needed privacy to survive. I stopped measuring legitimacy only through other people's permission. And if you are watching this as someone who cross-dresses, or someone who feels pulled toward bridal femininity in a way that is deeper than aesthetics, let me tell you what took me far too long to learn. First, go slower than your fantasy. The fastest way to ruin a transformation is to chase the final image before you understand the foundation. Second, femininity reads through posture before sparkle. Relaxation, softness, and intention beat panic and overacting every time. Third, your face changes more with brows, beard correction, and emotional expression than with expensive products. Fourth, a bridal look is about framing. The dupatta, the necklace line, the earring length, the lip shape, the hairline, all of it guides where the eye falls. Fifth, secrecy without systems becomes chaos, so protect yourself with planning. And most importantly, don't let shame narrate your journey for you. Shame will always describe your truth as ridiculous right before that truth becomes impossible to deny. When I look back now, I realize that glass door reflection outside the boutique was not the beginning after all. It was only the first time I caught my hidden self trying to reach me. The beginning happened much earlier. In every small moment, I felt moved by softness and immediately dismissed it. In every time I admired bridal beauty too closely and pretended it meant nothing. In every time I saw a version of femininity that didn't just attract me but called me. So, yes, this is the story of how I went from boyfriend to a secret bridal identity. But if I'm honest, the deeper story is this. I didn't become her in one dramatic transformation. I became her in hundreds of tiny surrenders. In every tutorial watched in silence. In every bangle hidden carefully away. In every wipe of makeup after midnight. In every heartbeat of panic when a knock came too soon. In every improvement that taught me I wasn't imagining the possibility. In every moment the mirror stopped feeling like glass and started feeling like a doorway. And the strangest, most beautiful part is that the more I let that secret bride exist, the less fake I felt in any form. Because she didn't steal my identity. She exposed its missing half. She taught me grace. She taught me patience. She taught me how much tenderness I had denied myself. She taught me that transformation is not always loud. Sometimes it arrives softly, draped in fabric, outlined in kajal, carrying a silence that says, I have been here all along. You just finally looked long enough to see me. If I could go back to that version of me outside the boutique, staring at the reflection and feeling terrified by how right it looked, I would not tell him to run. I would not tell him to bury it deeper. I would not call him confused or foolish or broken. I would lean close and tell him the truth he was years away from accepting. I would tell him that one day he would understand why bridal beauty made his heart race. One day he would stop treating his softness like contraband. One day he would learn that what he thought was a dangerous secret was also a doorway to self-recognition. One day he would pin that dupatta in place with steady hands, look in the mirror, and instead of asking, "What am I doing?" he would finally whisper the better question. How long have I been waiting to meet you? If you want, I can now turn this into an even more viral version with a more aggressive opening 30 seconds, stronger retention loops, and sharper emotional cliffhangers while keeping it plain script and around the same length.